The All American Otaku Show.
Welcome to the All American Otaku Show. For starters, we're going to talk about the polls that I set up. The first poll I did was best new anime of the year so far. The choices were Solo Leveling, Kaiju Number 8, the Spice and Wolf remake, and finally Vampire Dormitory. With a wide margin in the 60s, the Spice and Wolf remake took number one on this, followed by Kaiju Number 8 by a like 16%, Solo Level by 15%, and last but not least, Vampire Dormitory with like 8%. The next poll that I did was most patriotic character in anime. The choices were Bandit Keith from Yu-Gi-Oh! They were from Stars and Stripes from My Hero Academia, All Might from My Hero Academia, and America from Hetalia. This one, I don't remember what all of them were precisely, but the main one that won was America from Hetalia by a close margin with Stars and Stripes. Now, the second thing this show is going to talk about today is the subject for this month is none other than time in anime. The first aspect of time, there's time travel and time elapsing, as well as futuristic, which is a different form of time. For instance, aspect of time that they existed was none other than Dragon Ball Z. Future Trunks comes in back to the past to kill off some androids that ended up making a more of a dystopian style future where people have to go underground, and there's a resistance led by Trunks, who was a kid in the show but is now a teenager, comes back and says, Vegeta, you are my son. And he's like, I don't have a son. He's like, I don't have a son. Yeah, how do you know? Then it's like, then you find out that Bulma is pregnant and eventually has baby Trunks. Other aspects of time in anime for more of time travel is Steins Gate. Steins Gate revolves around Okibi, who fancies himself as sort of a mad scientist, a cosplay girl that's his longtime friend, who greets in there, do 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 do, and his other partner, who's a computer hacker, largely built, stereotypical computer hacker, awkward amongst girls, into various different virtual girlfriend types. He calls him a hack. They are trying to figure out the ins and outs of time travel. OKB eventually meets up with a physicist girl who has end up as a sort of a relationship, will they, won't they type thing within the story with the romance. And the main aspect is time travel. They tried putting bananas in, but they would come out all green goop. They would put various other things in there like eggs, and they would come back out all rotten or something. They found out that time travel, you can't really put anyone in it. You could send messages though. They called the messages that they sent out DM mail or DeLorean mail. They would send that back in the past to try to get them to change things. Like an old wise tale, if a female eats more red meat, it will turn into a gut. They will have a boy, or if they eat more fruit, they'll turn into a girl. There was a guy who has a crush on Okebe, always wanted to be a girl. So he asked him to send him a message to his mom to eat more fruit to turn into a girl. So she will end up being a girl. And eventually she ends up coming back at when they come back as a girl, as in this alternate time. Eventually the hack got what he wants, which I forgot right on top of my head, and eventually they realize they were messing up with the structures of time. This gets went with a shadow organization with the landlord that runs the building, who is part of a government thing, as well as his assistant, who ends up being who works for him at the repair shop that he's fakely saying that he works at while he watches what's going on with the scientists, ends up being the daughter of the hack of a girl that he meets later on, who's a cosplayer girl herself. And eventually this leads to them will have to change things into the past to make the more realistic future happen, and the things that doom that was coming not to happen. Like one of the things that ends up in the past that happened, that physicist chick girl ends up getting killed by her father, who was jealous of her intelligence. So they come there and change everything in the past. Like the guy who wanted to be a girl says she will change her past to become a guy again if Okibe at this moment will go on a date with her. He does. Eventually, they change one thing after another and after another after another, resetting time, thwarting the shadow organization, and various other things. Then they also have the physicist girl who was going to die by her father. They end up faking her death so she could still alive and work with Okibe, and the whole relationship could still exist. This is a really good anime. They even had a spin-off series called Science Gate Zero, where it talks about one of these alternate worlds that they created, and of the aspect of trying to keep his friend alive, which is the cosplay girl who keeps on dying and dying of various causes by shadow organization or by causality. And there's also funny aspects as well as technical aspects as well as drama and romance. This is a fairly good anime. The second anime I'm going to talk to you about that deals with time is Erased. I only have seen a few episodes of it, but this is about this 20 something who works at a pizza delivery place who has the ability to go back in time and restart time. Only thing is, he can't reset it to make his life better, like win the lottery or know what sports teams are going to win. Instead, he does it to change the past for so certain people won't die, kids don't get hurt, and various other things of that sort. Like he goes back in time and nudges and grabs a guy who had a heart attack and died, and as the truck is about to hit a little kid, and he drugs the kid and it hits like a wall or something. Eventually finds out that all these kids who were getting kidnapped when he was younger, as well as that's still going on, and they thwarted a situation where this kidnapper was going to try to take a kid and kill it again, and they thought the guy who originally did it was innocent now because there's a new person who's doing it, and it's the same person redoing it. He goes back in time, but this time he goes back in time when he was a kid, and his goal is to try to save this girl he knew who was mysteriously killed and found the body later in the snow. Turns out this kid was getting abused by her mother, and they end up developing some sort of relationship. Haven't gone too far into it. I'm only on episode 4 of episode 13 of the series. So far, very good anime. And the last anime I'm going to talk to you about that has to do with time travel is The Girl That Leapt Through Time. It talks about this girl who seems like a slice of life, a girl who plays baseball with two of her guy friends, where both of them have a crush on her, but she's too oblivious to realize this or can't think that she feels the same way. She ends up have to cleaning the school because that's how Japanese schools are. You have to clean up the school. They don't really have a janitorial staff like they do here in the United States. So she cleans up the school and trying to bring these notebooks back into the closet area. She falls down because she thinks someone's coming through and lands on a device that eventually leads to her so she can lead through time. She says, "Oh, I got a free pass to do anything." So she continues to lead through time, continues to lead through time until it starts to get real. One of her friends ends up borrowing a bike with this girl, but her bike, she remembers when she leapt through time the first time that it crashes into a guardrail and goes in there and they get hit by a train and die. She goes through her leaps. It goes to zero, and she can't stop it. But what she doesn't know, one of her friends is a time traveler too, and stops it. A friend that has a crush on her, then she realizes she has a crush on them, and figures, how am I going to get with this guy? It's sometimes it takes hard to work hard. Very good anime. I'm not going to go too much into it. I suggest you guys to watch it. Here's Mr. Pat on his manga discussion about time. Thank you.
I'm doing this time I got to choose and I chose time stories. They're pretty broad. Most people think time travel, but there's other meaning to it, but this time it is actually time travel. I chose one that was called, based off a Korean web novel called A Returner's Magic Should Be Special. you know, really big names here. Uh, so the story takes place. Uh, this guy named Desmond Herman in this 10-year battle of which was called the Shadow Realm, uh, Shadow Labyrinth. Sorry, uh, he was one of the remaining survivors in the big bad battle, and when him and his hero type friends, more comrades at this point, uh, thought they had success in hand, the creature had the last ditch effort of its heart was actually the explosive trigger and killed them all, thinking that, that was that. But he wakes up 10 years in the past when he has to go to let me give me a sec here, Herbert Academy. And he wakes up and realizes that he could start things all over again. So, armed with his future magic, and he's going to try to save his friends that he never were able to do and try to change things. I think this is also kind of a reincarnation type story. I the cool part about this story is that he progressively gets stronger, but at the beginning he's really weak because there's a gap between level of magic, like 1 through 4, let's say. There's probably higher levels there. And he was level 1, but armed with his knowledge and everyone looking down on him, there's this nobility that thinks they know better, and he's a commoner. So, armed with all that knowledge in the future, he manages to press ahead and eventually finds his friends again that he vowed to save. I recommend this one because I will go for shonen type style too. Gets more powerful during the story. I recommend this like 8 out of 10.